name is Bella. I'm 31 years old, and I thought I had it all figured out. Engaged to Mason, 33, for 6 months after 3 years together. I run a mid-sized logistics company I built from scratch after college. Nothing Fortune 500, but we do about $12 million in revenue annually and employ 65 people. Mason works in fashion retail management. He's always been status obsessed, but I thought it was just ambition. Turns out it was something else entirely. My fiancé said, "You're not ambitious like my ex. She actually had drive." I smiled. She did. Then I hired his ambitious ex at my company and made her my assistant. Her humiliation when she had to schedule our meetings and call me sir. The comment that started everything happened at his friend Tanya's engagement party 2 weeks ago. We were talking with some couples about careers when Mason had too much wine and decided to be honest. "Bella's great and all," he said, gesturing at me with his glass. "But sometimes I miss being with someone truly ambitious." My ex, Brianna, now she had real drive. She was going places. The whole group went silent. I just smiled. Brianna was definitely driven. I agreed calmly. He kept going. She worked at Goldman Sachs. She had that hunger, that corporate killer instinct. Not everyone can handle that lifestyle. He looked at me with a pitying expression. Bella's sweet running her little delivery company, but Brianna was Wall Street material. His friend's husband tried to change the subject, mentioning, "My company just landed a major contract with a hospital network." Mason waved it off. "It's cute, but it's not exactly high finance, is it?" I excused myself to get another drink. While at the bar, I made a decision. See, what Mason didn't know was that Brianna had applied to my company 3 months earlier. I remembered the name because he'd mentioned her before. Her resume had been interesting. 2 years at Goldman Sachs, analyst, not the hotshot he imagined. Then bounced around 3 startups that all failed, currently unemployed for 8 months. I'd passed on her application initially, but now I had a different idea. Monday morning, I called my HR director, Rachel. That Brianna Fitzgerald, who applied for the operations manager position, set up an interview. Really? Her experience seemed scattered. "I want to see her." Thursday, 2 p.m., update 1. 1 week later, the interview was fascinating. Brianna showed up in a suit that had seen better days, trying to project confidence that wasn't quite there anymore. She clearly didn't recognize my name or connect me to Mason. Why would she? He always called me Bella, who owns a delivery service to her friends, not Bella, who runs a $12 million logistics company. "So, Brianna, tell me about your trajectory since Goldman Sachs." She launched into a rehearsed spiel about seeking new challenges and exploring entrepreneurial ventures. Translation: fired from Goldman, failed at everything since. "The startups didn't work out?" I asked. "Market conditions weren't favorable," she said, "but I learned valuable lessons about perseverance." Perseverance, right? Like persevering through sending 200 job applications, according to her LinkedIn activity. "What interests you about logistics?" I asked. "Well, it's a growing field with stable opportunities." Translation: I desperately need a job, and you're hiring. Here's where it got interesting. I offered her a position, but not the operations manager role. "I think you'd be perfect for executive assistant to the CEO." "Me?" Her face went through several expressions. Confusion, disappointment, then forced enthusiasm when I mentioned the salary. "Decent, but definitely not Goldman Sachs level." "It's a great opportunity to learn the business from the top," I said. "You'll handle my calendar, travel arrangements, meeting prep, real insight into running a company." What I didn't say, "You'll be scheduling my date nights with your ex-boyfriend and calling me sir in front of him." She accepted immediately. Of course she did. 8 months of unemployment does that. "Can you start Monday?" I asked. "Absolutely, Ms. Hayes. Please call me Ms. T. We keep things professional but friendly here." The best part? Mason had no idea I hadn't told him about the hire. He was too busy posting Instagram stories about manifesting big moves and leveling up in life. Brianna's first day was yesterday. I had her organize my office, learn our systems, and shadow me in meetings. She's competent enough, eager to please, desperate to keep this job. "Ms. T, you have a dinner reservation Thursday at 8 p.m. with Mr. Rodriguez," she said, reading from my calendar. "Actually, that's with my fiancé, Mason Chen. Please update that." She froze. The color drained from her face. "Mason Chen. Yeah, you might know him actually. He mentioned you two dated years ago. Small world, right?" She stammered something about professionalism and keeping things separate. I waved her off. "Ancient history? I'm sure we're all adults here." The panic in her eyes was delicious. 3 days later, Thursday arrived. I told Mason I wanted to stop by my office before dinner to grab something. He agreed, though complained about having to see my little warehouse. We walked into the executive floor at 7:30 p.m. Brianna was still there, finishing reports I'd asked for. "Brianna, perfect timing," I called out. "Come meet my fiancé." The look on Mason's face when Brianna walked around the corner in her assistant's lanyard was worth everything. His mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish gasping for air. "Mason," Brianna said weakly. "Brianna, Why are you Brianna's new executive assistant?" I said cheerfully. "Been doing great work. Brianna, can you check if the Marchetti contract is ready for tomorrow?" "Yes, Ms. T, right away." She practically ran to her desk. Mason grabbed my arm. "We need to talk now." In my office, he exploded. "You hired my ex as your assistant. Is that a problem? You said she was ambitious and driven." "I needed someone with those qualities. This is insane. You're being petty and childish." "Petty? I hired a qualified candidate who needed a job. You're the one who spent an entire party talking about how amazing she was compared to me." "I was drunk in Veneno Veritas, babe." He stormed toward the door, then turned back. "Make her quit." "I can't make employees quit." "Mason, that would be illegal. Besides, she really needs this job. Been unemployed for 8 months, apparently." His face went white. 8 months? "Yeah. Turns out Goldman Sachs let her go 2 years ago. Something about performance issues. The startups after that all failed. She's been living with her parents." I watched his world tilt. His ambitious, driven ex who was going places was fetching my coffee and calling me sir. "This is cruel," he whispered. "Cruel? I gave a struggling woman a decent job. That's actually pretty kind. Want to grab dinner still?" He left without another word. Didn't go to dinner. Didn't go home either. Went straight to his mother's house. His mom, Gloria, called me an hour later. "Bella, what's this about you humiliating Mason?" "I hired an employee, Gloria. If Mason feels humiliated by his ex having a normal job, that's his issue." "You did this to hurt him." "I did this to help someone who needed work. The fact that Mason spent months comparing me negatively to her, well, now he can see how that comparison actually plays out. This is abusive behavior. Comparing your fiancé negatively to your ex at public events is abusive behavior, Bella. Hiring someone who needs a job is just business." She hung up. Brianna tried to quit the next morning. Walked into my office shaking. "Ms. T, I think it's best if She sat down. "Did Mason contact you?" "Yes, he called last night. He was upset." "Did he tell you to quit?" She nodded. "Brianna, you need this job, correct? You've been unemployed for 8 months. You're living with your parents. Your LinkedIn shows you've applied to over 200 positions." Her shoulders sagged. "This is a good job," I continued. "Fair pay, growth potential, stable company. You'd throw that away because your ex-fiancé is embarrassed?" "It's complicated." "It's not. You work for me, not him. You do good work. You keep your job. You quit because he demands it. Good luck explaining that gap to your next interviewer." She stayed. Update 3. 1 week later. The last week had been a masterclass in entitled meltdown. First, Mason tried to ambush me at the office. He showed up Monday with his friend Tanya, the one whose party started this, for support. They marched past reception like they owned the place. Brianna saw them coming and tried to hide in the supply closet. I called her into my office right as they arrived. "Brianna, I need you to take notes for this meeting," I said loudly. Mason's face went red. "We need to talk privately." "Brianna's my assistant. She stays. Company policy for all unscheduled meetings." Tanya jumped in. "This is psychological warfare, Bella. You're torturing him." "I'm running a business. Brianna, please document Mason Chen and Tanya Walker's concerns." Brianna sat there with her laptop typing frantically, avoiding everyone's eyes. Mason tried a different approach. "Bella, please, I love you. I made one stupid comment. Multiple comments over months." "Brianna, did you get that?" "Mason admits to multiple derogatory comparisons," Brianna reported. "This is sick," Mason screamed. "Brianna, tell her how sick this is." Brianna looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. I just work here. You're pathetic," she spat. "Both of you." Security escorted them out. I asked Brianna to write up an incident report. Then came the social media campaign. Mason posted a long rant about narcissistic abuse and workplace harassment, tagged my company. Big mistake. My lawyer sent him a cease and desist within 24 hours. Defamation is serious business. The post disappeared, but the damage to his narrative was done. Several mutual friends had screenshot it and sent it to me, appalled by his accusations. His mom, Gloria, tried next. Showed up at my condo building, convinced she was surprising me for my birthday. "It's not my birthday. You're destroying my son. Your son destroyed our relationship when he decided I wasn't good enough. He's had to take time off work. He's too humiliated to show his face. That sounds like a personal problem. End this. Fire her. I don't fire good employees to make my ex-fiancé happy. Oh, did he not mention you're done? I pulled out my phone, showed him the text I'd sent Mason that morning, officially ending our engagement and asking him to return the ring. Gloria actually tried to slap me. I stepped back and she hit the doorframe. The building security camera got everything. I filed a police report, but the peak entitlement came yesterday. Brianna came into my office pale and shaking. Ms. T, there's a situation. Mason was in the lobby with a man I didn't recognize. Turns out it was his new boyfriend, some crypto guy named Austin he'd met on a dating app 3 days after we split. He was demanding Brianna be fired or he'd sue for emotional distress. I came down to the lobby with our head of security and Rachel from HR. Mason Chen, you're trespassing. Leave immediately. Austin puffed up. You can't talk to him like that. He has rights. She has the right to leave before we call the police, I said calmly. I'll ruin you, Bella, Mason screamed. I'll tell everyone what kind of psycho you are. Brianna, I said calmly, please call the police and report trespassing and harassment. Brianna pulled out her phone. The look on Mason's face when his ambitious ex started dialing 911 on his behalf was priceless. They left before the cops arrived, but we filed the report anyway. 2 weeks later. It's been a month since I hired Brianna, and the dust has finally settled. Mason's attempts at legal action went nowhere. Turns out judges don't sympathize with "she hired my ex-girlfriend and pays her a fair wage" as grounds for emotional distress. His lawyer dropped him after he couldn't pay the retainer. The crypto boyfriend, Austin, disappeared after 2 weeks when he realized Mason was broke and dramatic. Mason got fired from his retail management job after missing too many shifts for mental health days and showing up drunk to a regional meeting. His Instagram went from manifesting big moves to deleted entirely. Last I heard through mutual friends, he moved back in with Gloria and is working on the sales floor at a department store, not management. Brianna is still working here. Turns out she's actually decent at the job when she's not trying to pretend she's a Wall Street hotshot. She keeps her head down, does her work, calls me Ms. T or Sir without me having to ask. We had an interesting conversation yesterday. Can I be honest, Ms. T? Go ahead. When I dated Mason, he constantly compared me to other people. His friend's girlfriend, who was a lawyer, his cousin's wife, who owned restaurants. Nothing was ever enough. Sounds familiar. I tried so hard to be what he wanted. The Gordon Gekko thing. It wasn't me. Getting fired from Goldman was actually a relief, but I couldn't admit it. And now I'm good at a normal job with a good boss who doesn't expect me to be anything but competent and professional. Glad to hear it. She paused at the door. He never appreciated what he had, did he, with either of us? No, Brianna, he didn't. The ring. Mason tried to keep it, claimed it was a gift. My lawyer reminded him that engagement rings are conditional gifts in our state. He FedExed it back last week with a note calling me various names. I sold it and donated the money to a local job placement charity. Seemed fitting. My company is doing better than ever. That hospital network contract led to 2 more. We're expanding, hiring more people, including a new operations manager, since Brianna's doing well in her current role. Me? I'm dating someone new. Andrew, from the hospital network we contracted with. He thinks the whole story is hilarious and says he's glad Mason showed me who he really was before we got married. Andrew also makes more than me. And you know what? I'm totally fine with that. The revenge wasn't about destroying Mason. It was about showing him that his whole value system was broken. The ambitious ex he lauded over me, she works for me now. His status-obsessed worldview, it collapsed when faced with reality. He wanted to humiliate me by comparing me to Brianna. Instead, he humiliated himself by revealing how shallow his values were. Every time Brianna schedules my meetings, takes my calls, or says, "Yes, Ms. T," it's a reminder that ambition without ability is just empty posturing. Gloria still sends me angry texts occasionally. I don't respond. Brianna forwards them to our legal department as potential harassment evidence. Someone asked if I feel bad about the whole thing. Honestly, no. I gave an unemployed woman a decent job. I showed my ex-fiancé who his hero really was. I dodged a bullet by not marrying someone who would never appreciate what he had. The only thing I regret is not seeing the red flag sooner. Like when he insisted we go to the most expensive restaurant in town for our anniversary, but complained my company didn't have prestige. Or when he said my success didn't count because I didn't wear a suit to work. Brianna still works here. She's actually getting promoted next month to a real operations role, not assistant. She earned it. Mason would probably lose his mind knowing his ambitious ex is succeeding while working for me, but he'll never know. He's blocked on everything, legally barred from contacting me or coming near my company, and living his new reality, where he's not the main character in anyone's success story anymore. Turns out I was ambitious after all. Ambitious enough to build something real while he was fantasizing about something that never existed,